we are going to talk about someone very, very special that all of us at WHILL admire. And that's you, Lolo. We're so excited. Thank you so much for making the time.
Of course, of course. Like I was just telling Jeff, like, luckily my schedule was able to make it work because, I love the WHILL team. I love working with you guys and Scoot Around and, just the whole team all the time. And anytime that I can represent, I'm always down. So I'm glad I was able to actually make this one work.
Wow, that is so exciting. Honestly, we love following your content, and every time you post a picture with your WHILL Model Ci, we love to double tap that picture immediately. We love the content that you create. And so we're going to talk a lot about that, but we would love to start from the very beginning. Your diagnosis. I read a little bit about you. About when you were diagnosed and what that process looked like. But we would love to know more about your journey, about understanding your diagnosis and just taking hold of your life and becoming this amazing person that you are.
Yeah, so I mean, it all started when I was a teenager. I grew up in a small town, Stockton, California, and I lived a regular life, any regular kid's life. I was always out and about, playing in the front yard, running around, playing in the dirt, just doing kid stuff, right? And then when I became a teenager, it was regular teenage stuff, watching music videos, dancing all the time, getting into clothes and pretty and what does that mean and puberty and all that weird stuff that happens at that age. And then when I was 14, that's when I got my diagnosis because I'll never forget. My mom called us into the kitchen because I have siblings as well. So she called us into the kitchen and was like, y'all make y'all plate for dinner. So I was like, okay. So I reach in the cupboard with my right arm, but I reach in the cupboard, grab the plate, and the plate just dropped to the counter. I didn't drop the plate, but like I felt my entire arm just drop. And I was like, well, this is weird. And all I remember from that moment was going from doctor to doctor to doctor, trying to figure out like, why is my arm doing that? And honestly, I don't know if I remember progressively just like feeling weaker in my limbs or what, but it just like, I just knew that I was going doctor to doctor, and eventually they landed on a diagnosis of ALS. Since then, now that I'm an adult, I'm 33 going on 34 years old. The life expectancy of a person with ALS is 5 to 7 years. So there's question if whether or not ALS is my true diagnosis. So now at this point, I just like to say I'm either undiagnosed or just have muscular dystrophy because, I don't want to claim anything into my life that may not be true. So, but on paper, that's what they say it is. So it helps with insurance, I guess.
Well, that does sound hard, going from one doctor to the other and not being very certain about what exactly is the diagnosis. That sounds very hard. But I could see that, you talked about how you love to dress up and you were a fashionista as a young girl, right?
I mean, I tried my best with the budget my mom had for us at the time, but, I have an older sister and, I just would look at the way she dressed. And I always loved the way my older sister dressed as well. And my sister always, had told me there's no such thing as being too dressed up. When you're getting dressed, there's no such thing as being too dressed up. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll take that with me. And
I love that.
Right. So, just as I became older, I became more and more into fashion, really just enjoyed clothes. And then once I met my stylist, Stephanie Thomas, who specializes in dressing people with disabilities, she really opened up my mind to what I would be able to wear, to be able to wear the clothes independently, comfortably, and in a very fashionable way. So ever since working with her, my fashion sense has skyrocketed.
Wow. That's so great because every time you would post the fashion is on point. Always, we're taking notes.
Yeah.
So talking about fashion and glamour, I cannot help but talk about Give Me Liberty, the
Yeah.
amazing movie where you were nominated for the award for Best Supporting Female. That
Yeah.
is a great movie. By the way, everyone who's watching this, you have to watch that movie. Lolo plays a young woman, Tracy, a young Black woman in a wheelchair, and it's a beautiful story.
Yes.
Lolo, how did you land this role? What was how did that experience happen? How did that unfold?
Yeah, so at the time, I was really just focused on building my YouTube channel. And I thought like, oh, YouTube, creating content on YouTube was like what I was gonna do. Like it was just like the thing. But as I was creating content and building my platform, more and more opportunities started to come my way out of nowhere. The modeling thing started happening, and I was kind of doing that and doing panels at VidCon and different things. So the opportunity to act popped up as well through my agent. And my agent was like, hey, this indie film is looking specifically for a young Black woman who's a wheelchair user to play this role. Would you be down? Mind you, I've never acted a day in my life. I didn't think about acting. I mean, it crosses your mind when you live in LA, right? You're like, oh, maybe I can act, or maybe, but I had admired the craft so much that I was like, unless I'm going to be doing classes or doing this, doing that, I don't even want to touch it. But once I was able to read the script and talk to our director, Kirill Mikanovsky, and our producer, Alice Austin, I really loved the character, that it was about her humanity, Tracy's humanity, who she was. Having a disability was almost like secondary to the way she was presented throughout the film. And I really thought that that was really important. And besides my own fear or reservations of never acting before and getting an opportunity to act, that became secondary, because I thought to myself, it'd be way more important to be a part of the representation that it would mean to play this character, rather than my own fears of whether or not I had the ability to do so. So I got that opportunity. I auditioned. They loved me. We did pre-production for at least 2 years via Zoom. Via Skype, because that was before Zoom was like a big thing. So via Skype, just going back and forth, building the character with the filmmakers, telling them my reservations about certain things. They were really open to what I had to say, to be sure that disability was represented authentically, and to be sure that my Blackness was represented authentically as well. And so they were just amazing, and they were great. And because it's indie film, you just never know when you're going to start. It's always like stop and go, stop and go. So when they were like, okay, we're going, it's time to go, I had like 3 weeks to prepare everything around for me to leave for 3 weeks to film in Milwaukee. So that was an interesting experience. So I was able to
so quick. That's a very quick turnaround.
Yeah, no, seriously, it was a very quick turnaround. So luckily I was able to squeeze in a couple acting classes before I left. But, I went to Milwaukee and I just prayed and was like, I'm just going to do the best that I can. And the Film Independent Spirit Awards thought I did good enough to be nominated. So now we're here.
Not just good, you were great, Lolo. And like I said, if you haven't watched this, you should definitely take the time out to check Give Me Liberty. It's a beautiful movie. And I love how you talk about authenticity, because whether it's your content you create or the projects that you pick, authenticity is so important to you. And
absolutely,
that is really admirable. 2019 was a pretty terrific year, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can imagine once quarantine hit in 2020, the extreme change that happened in my life. But yes, 2019 was amazing.
But you did work virtually before that, like checking the scripts and talking to people. So
oh, yes.
Already a pro.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
in 2019, you also did this adaptive fashion line photo shoot with Tommy Hilfiger. That was pretty exciting.
Yes.
How did that happen? What was the situation around that opportunity?
Yes, so I had actually worked with Tommy Hilfiger Adaptive a couple of times prior to the 2019 shoot. So we had already built like a relationship and a rapport with each other. And very similar to the WHILL team, the Tommy Hilfiger team, the Tommy Hilfiger Adaptive team is like family to me at this point. So, the 2019 campaign was really special because I got to model the pieces from the Tommy Hilfiger and Zendaya collaboration. Her collection at that time had some adaptive pieces with it, which I believe was probably one of the first times that had happened, where Tommy Hilfiger did a collaboration collection and then there were adaptive pieces for it. So, and then plus I'm absolutely obsessed with Zendaya. So
Who is it?
Right. So when I found out, I was like, oh my God, thank you. I'm so happy. I'm so excited. So
exciting, yes.
So it was just absolutely amazing to be able to be a part of that shoot and their holiday collection that year. And then to be able to use the WHILL Model Ci in the photo shoot was just the icing on the cake, because I love the WHILL Model Ci. It's so fashionable and dope. It's just so futuristic. Every time I use it like out in public, people are asking questions like, whoa, what is that? Like, where can I get one of those? And, they're asking me all these specifics about the chair. So I just absolutely loved it. And I knew I wanted something to match the aesthetic of the clothing too. That's the thing that's really important, when we do these photo shoots as, models with disabilities, when we're wearing clothes and high fashion clothes or just clothes in general, we want the devices that we use to be just as fashionable, to be just as fly and just as cool. So I knew once I had that opportunity, I was like, can I use the WHILL Model Ci in this one? I was like, look, I know the team over there. You can get whatever clearances you need, whatever y'all got to do on the back end. We can make it work. And so luckily everything was able to work itself out. So that was a really, really great opportunity. And I was glad that I was able to represent for y'all as well.
We just love that every opportunity you get, your first preference as your style partner is the WHILL Model Ci.
Yeah.
And I think the designers in our team right now, whoever is watching, they're going, yay, so good. We're very excited because that is one of the very important pieces of our device. We want to make sure that it complements your style and it brings out the confidence. And you were on the Mindy Kaling show as well, and you rocked as well.
Yes. So I am casted as a series regular on Mindy Kaling's new HBO Max show. It hasn't come out yet, but it will. We are in the process of filming right now, and I'm just so excited to be a part of that project. What it means for disability representation, what it means for disability just in general, to be a part of such a great project. The show was called The Sex Lives of College Girls. So check that out. So as you could imagine, it will be a very fun show. It'll be a very fun show. It'll be a very funny show. I mean, Mindy, is an incredible writer. Justin Noble, who's also our executive producer on the show, between him and her, they're writing it along with their team of writers that they have as well. And it's going to be a really funny, really amazing, great project. I can't wait for the world to be able to see it. But that's all I can say about it now.
Wait. There's so much excitement you've built up with that introduction. I can't hardly wait for that show with Lolo, honestly.
Yes.
I think this is a great time for us to take one question from our audience here.
Okay.
We have one question from Justin. The question is, are there any upcoming projects you can share that we should look out for? Wow, see, everyone is really excited about that.
Yes. So, I mean, definitely look out for the Sex Lives of College Girls. It'll be on HBO Max. So get your subscription now if you don't already have it. So that'll be on HBO Max. Like I said, that's all I could say about it right now. Other things coming up in the future, another season of The New Narrative will be coming out. That is my IGTV talk show / podcast that I host on, like I said, IGTV, where I interview fellow influencers and people within the community, in the disability community, who are really creating a new narrative for disability through their work and their activism and things that they do. So I'll be dropping another set of interviews, to come soon as well. What else do I have going on? I have multiple panels that'll be coming out as well. Can't talk about who they're with yet, but working on those as well. So just follow me on my Instagram. That's where everything is posted. Any announcement, anything that I'm doing, I post it on my Instagram. My Instagram is at It's Lolo Love, ITSLOLOLOVE. Posting constantly on Facebook as well. So that's facebook.com/sittingprettylolo. So between those two platforms, you'll be able to see a lot of new content, a lot of new interviews, panels, anything that I've got going on. The announcement is there. And I just dropped a interview that I did with Judy Heumann, who was the leader of the disability revolution in the 70s to get Section 504 passed, which was basically the basis to what then later on turned into the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. So she's an incredible person. That was a really great interview. So check that out as well. That's live on my IGTV right now.
So you get two incredibly inspiring women,
yes,
in one episode. Wow, that is amazing. And
for Women's History Month. So that's why I did it. March is Women's History Month. So that was another reason. I was like, I gotta get a powerhouse lady on my IGTV.
That is exciting. And we have put all the links in the chat. So anyone, if you want to find Lolo, her Facebook and Instagram links are in the chat. Just click and hit follow.
Yes,
That's
please.
The easiest way to keep track of everything that Lolo is doing. And we also have some fun lives around the weekend to wind down, right?
Yes, yes.
Fun.
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, I always do like live chats on Clubhouse. I'm doing another live chat later today for a fellow influencer with a disability. Her name is Erin. We'll be chatting later on today on Instagram as well. So like I said, just follow me on all social media. It's always there.
Awesome. We're going to pick another audience question right here.
Yes.
And we spoke about ADA briefly and accessibility. And I think it is so important to talk about that at this platform. JJ has sent in a question. Can you share some tips and tricks on how you can get around, travel with mobility challenges? Because it can be a challenge.
Oh, yes.
And also, what types of devices do you use? Do you find around that are super friendly, accessible for individuals with mobility needs?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a loaded question. So for me, let's tackle traveling first, right? And out of city traveling, right? So for me, the first thing I do, no matter what the city is, I try and whatever hotel I'm going to be staying at, I book the wheelchair accessible room with the roll-in shower. That's the one that I need. I make sure that it's booked. I make sure that there are 2 queen size beds because I'm always traveling with somebody and we're not going to be bunking in the same bed unless you're my mom, then it's fine. But other than that, we're grown people. We want our separate beds. So you have to advocate for yourself to make sure you have the appropriate room, and you have to call. Even leading up to it, you got to call again. Once you show up in the city, you got to call again. The other thing is, for me, I like renting a chair in the city that I'm going to, because that prevents damage to my personal power wheelchairs when traveling. You know, a lot of times when us as wheelchair users, we're using power chairs like on planes and stuff, a lot of times they end up getting damaged, and airlines don't have a quick enough fix for you to be able to enjoy your trip should something happen to your chair. So I always like to rent a chair just temporarily for the time being that I'm in that particular city. So I work with the WHILL team, and I work with Scoot Around to get those reservations done when traveling, and have the chair already delivered to the hotel or the airport, depending on how I have to travel that particular time. So that way I have it immediately and I can just enjoy my trip the entire time. So that would be my tip, as far my quick tips about traveling. As far as being in the city, you know, anytime I leave my house and I'm going to like a completely different side of town, or going to like a friend's house or anything like that, I always use my WHILL Model Ci, because it is able to break down into different pieces and still allows me the independence of having a power chair as well. So for instance, if I'm going to, like later today, I'm going to go to the mall to do some shopping, I use my WHILL Model Ci because I can use an accessible van. But if for whatever reason, no accessible vans are available, I can just get like a regular Uber or a regular Lyft and ask the driver if they're willing to disassemble the chair, reassemble it, and I can still be able to get back home. If I'm going to a friend's house, it's the same thing. I can leave my building independently, but if I'm at my friend's house until like 2 o'clock in the morning and then I have to go home, none of the vans are going to be running at that time. So they would be able to drive me home using my WHILL Model Ci, because they're able to disassemble and reassemble the chair. So that would just be my quick tips, you know, traveling in the city and outside of the city.
That is awesome. So wheelchairs or mobility devices that can disassemble quickly, easy to travel with. Your preferred one is WHILL Model Ci.
100%.
And you also like to rent. So I believe we've answered JJ's question, and we have one more before we move further. Let's take Mackenzie's question. How did you get your name out there? That's a very interesting question. How did you get out there?
So the key, well, one, I had to make the decision that I wanted my name to be out there, that I wanted to build a platform on social media and share my experience. That's the biggest thing, because a lot of people just feel like they want to share, and then they realize that a lot of people start watching them and they're like, oh no, I don't want to do this anymore. So it's like, but once you're out there, you're kind of out there. So, you know, you have to make the decision that that's what you want to do. So when I made the decision that that's what I wanted to do, I knew I had to be consistent with my content. And the more that I was consistent with my content, and the more that I was able to be vulnerable as I wanted to share, because you don't have to share everything. Sure. I'm still very specific on what I share. So with me choosing to be as vulnerable as I wanted to be and being authentic in it, more and more people gravitated to my content. So that was really it for me, was just being consistent, working with other influencers, disabled or not, you know, reaching out to certain brands and publications and stuff like that, letting them know like, hey, I'm here, would love to, you know, share my story or those different things. And the more that I was consistent, the more people liked my content, and it kind of just built from there, and more opportunities came, and I stayed focused on the why. You know, I didn't start getting distracted by, you know, the money that came with it. I didn't get distracted by the popularity that came with it. I always focused on why, because I passed up a lot of opportunities because it didn't match the why. It didn't match the reason why I wanted to do this stuff, which was to show disability lifestyle in a fun, fly, sexy kind of way. So that is always my why. So if there is something that doesn't allow me to express that and share that, I don't do it.
The authenticity, again, is the most important thing for Lolo here.
100%.
And I feel there's so much style and fashion that we've touched upon a little bit, but I know that there are a lot of people here watching this live conversation, and they're very interested. And also WHILL users, they are very style conscious. They put fashion first. So what tips do you have? And also, Ciara has a question here. Do you have a stylist? If yes, can I meet her?
Yes, I love it. So, two-part question, right? So I'll answer the stylist part because that's more important to me. So yes, I do have a stylist. Her name is Stephanie Thomas. Her Instagram is Disability Fashion Stylist, all one word. And she is one of one. She is incredible. She specializes in dressing people with disabilities. She can teach you how to dress for your particular disability with her fashion styling system, which allows you to know how to go in any clothing store and find the pieces that'll work best for you. So after learning her styling system and her dressing me for all kinds of different amazing and incredible events, I've learned how to implement those tips into my own way of dressing. So that's how that works. So yes, I do work with a stylist, but because I have always had my own personal style, I just use what Stephanie has taught me and applied it when I go shopping on my own. And find the things that I find. As far as tips on styling, it's really what Stephanie taught me, find something that's comfortable, but yet fashionable. Find the pieces that work for your body type. For me, because I'm a seated, so I'll use some examples. I'm a seated wheelchair user. So I always look for crop tops. I'm actually gonna point the camera down a little bit. So I like crop tops. So that way the shirt doesn't go into my chair, it doesn't get into my wheels or anything like that. And it fits me great. And high-waisted pants are the keys to seated body types, high-waisted pants and crop tops. Those are like my go-to pieces when shopping. So that's just my thing.
We have the link to Lolo's stylist, her Instagram. Follow her, drop her a message and say, hey, we were chatting with WHILL and we heard about you.
Yes, please do. She's really great. She's really great.
Do that. And if you're someone who's interested in dressing like Lolo, try crop tops and high-waisted jeans.
Yes.
That's formula. Wow, that is so exciting.
It makes all the difference, like all the difference. You don't have to be stuck wearing sweats all day. You don't have to be stuck wearing big t-shirts. There's just so many different ways that it can be done and can be done with integrity, independence, and style. And that's something that Stephanie always drums into my head. So that's what I share with others as well.
That is so exciting. And again, women supporting women. How beautiful is that?
Exactly. Exactly.
There's power in that, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And on top of that, Stephanie is also a person with a disability. So she knows any and everything, no matter what your disability may be, she knows how to find a way for you to dress with integrity and style.
That's so important. Having confidence in that moment and feeling fly. That's so important. We have a few more questions.
Okay.
We have one question. Have you found producers and cast members on your show to be open to accommodating? So as a person living with disability, you may need some accommodations. And if there are any challenges you faced while looking for accommodations?
So I have luckily been blessed from the Give Me Liberty team to the team on Mindy's show on HBO Max, to be blessed with a crew and a production team that really puts my needs and requests as a priority. The number one thing, before starting any project, when you're like negotiating those kinds of things, like what do you need, all those things, anything that I needed, they were open to it. Whether it was something that needed to happen on set or something that needed to happen in front of the screen. You know, anytime I had a concern about something or a question about something, they were open to what I had to say and were open to modifying it to make me feel comfortable, one, and to be sure that, you know, it was authentic to the community. So, but I think the thing is that as people with disabilities, especially as performers, we have to also know when to speak up for ourselves, and that we have to speak up for ourselves, because a lot of times, you know, we think that no one's paying attention or people are being or whatever the case is. And that's not necessarily the case, because they genuinely might not know. So we have to be the teachers right now until it becomes the common thing to do. We have to be the ones to teach, and we have to be the ones to say, okay, we need this, we need that. Like, so for instance, there was a location that we shot at that the buildings were really old. So obviously they weren't going to be accessible. So what they did is they built ramps. They had a team that was on deck at all times, ready for me. Like, should something happen with the chair or whatever the case is, like anything. They built my trailer on HBO for the HBO Max show. They built my trailer from scratch, because they knew I needed an accessible toilet. They knew that I needed a booster seat on the toilet. They knew that that I, just like the rest of the cast, needed a trailer too. You know, they wanted to be sure that I felt included, that I felt like an equal as my other castmates. And they have a lift and everything for the trailer, because there's only like 2 accessible trailers in all of Hollywood. So they built mine from the ground up.
That is pretty monumental. Why I think it is because you are in a way paving the way for a lot of individuals with limited mobility who are interested in acting and would somehow want to be on the sets, but are too scared to voice their requests. And I think that is so great for you to be that voice out there, and then someone else coming after you that they're dealing with, they would know exactly what to offer.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that education piece is so big.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing, is we have to constantly educate the rest of the world about our disabilities and our needs, because once we tell them, they're like, okay, we can figure that out. Oh, that's no problem. We'll make that work. You know, let me say, a lot of the experiences that I've had, that has been the case, because at the end of the day, you know, if they want you, they're going to make the accommodation. And we as people with disabilities have to know that we are wanted. Our talents, our skills, our abilities are wanted in these projects, a part of these panels, and whatever the case is. So we have to treat ourselves and know that we are wanted. So if you want me, I need to make sure I can get in the building. You know, like, I need to make sure I can get to the toilet, like, you know. So and so luckily everyone has been incredibly accommodating and incredibly supportive.
And I think it also goes without saying that you are such an incredible person, even with our experience of working with you as a WHILL team. We've had such amazing experience of collaborating with you on multiple occasions. You have very strong work ethic, and we love that. We're very close to the time, and see, I did not even realize we're 3 minutes over. This is what happens when you start listening to Lolo. You just want to sit and keep nodding your head, because everything she says is so true. And so I'm going to close with one last super quick question.
Sure.
Your podcast, it has 5-star rating after 10 episodes, and I think that's unheard of. 5 stars. That's pretty amazing. What's next for that one? Because I'm so tuned in, and so are everyone who's watching.
Yes. So for the podcast, I'll be bringing on new guests within probably the next few weeks to talk to them. You know, I always started on my IGTV. That's the new narrative. So I started with the live chat on IGTV, and then I bring it onto the podcast platform as well. I work with a great company called the Entertainment Speakers Bureau. They are the ones who help host my podcast on all of the different platforms and everything like that. So definitely look up the Entertainment Speakers Bureau. They're on Instagram, Twitter, and everything else. So they are the ones who host the podcast version of the new narrative that is on IGTV. So I'll be bringing on new guests within the next few weeks for sure. And that is definitely coming up.
That is so exciting, because all the guests that you had in those last 10 episodes, they were so incredibly amazing, talented. They had incredible accomplishments, and every conversation was so inspiring and real.
Yes, and that's the key. That's the key, is to make sure that it's real. I tell all of my guests beforehand, this is an open conversation. We're going to talk that real talk. Sorry, I almost cursed again. We're going to talk that real talk. We're going to have a good time, and we're really going to educate and show the world that, hey man, we're out here and we're doing great things. And all of our stories are not these sad sob stories. We've gone past our trauma and learned how to repurpose our trauma into something really dope through our work and the things that we do. And I've had guests like Ali Stroker, Wesley Hamilton. I've had Stephanie Thomas, my stylist. I have so many different people, so many different influencers from so many, Angela Rockwood, Tamata Mena, all these different people just in all these different places really share their perspective. So I just love it. And I'm glad that people like it that much to give it 5 stars.
Who could not like that? It's so very authentic conversations and great guests. Thank you for creating that very, very important piece of content, which spreads awareness, educates people, and also entertains them in a fun way. I cannot think of something better. So we have the link to Lolo's podcast in the chat. We have her Instagram and social media links in the chat as well. You can see her in Mindy Kaling's show coming up on HBO. Get your subscriptions ready.
Yes.
And you can see her with the WHILL Model Ci. Every time you spot her, say, hey, can I get a selfie?
Yes, please do.
Yes, thank you so much, Lolo, for giving us the time. We are incredibly grateful for everything that you do for this community, and also for all the support that you offer to our team. We are beyond proud.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I always love you guys, and I love the team, and I love just sharing my, little bit of experience with the world. So thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Lolo. Thanks everyone for joining us and for tuning in to listen to Lolo. If you have any other questions, our people are right there in the booth. Just reach out, talk about the WHILL Model Ci, or maybe ping Lolo and ask her what's her favorite color for the arms.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, so just start that conversation and drop us a message if you want to test drive. That too, very important.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks, Lolo.
Thank you.